Hello and welcome back to my channel, Mental Health with Melissa. I'm Melissa. If you're new here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. I post new videos every single Sunday and Wednesday, and subscribing to my channel helps me get mental health information out there to our communities of color and tons of free LCSW test prep. I have a LCSW study program coming up called Social Work Study with Melissa. It's an LCSW study prep program, and it's going to be available for purchase starting March 31st of this year. So it's really coming up. I've been working really hard on it. It's taken me months to kind of put the information together and develop. It will have a full study guide that you can type in things with, and tons of private videos to follow along with, and an LCSW mock exam at the very end, with rationale test prep questions that check your knowledge at the end of each section. So go to the link in the description box below to hear more. So today I wanted to take a look at anxiety disorders. I have gone through a series of mood disorders and depressive disorders and eating disorders. So now I want to take a closer look at different types of anxiety disorders, and I'm going to have more details about these disorders in the actual social work study test prep program that's coming out. But for now, I wanted to go over this very briefly because there's tons of anxiety disorders in the DSM. And if you haven't yet checked out my video on panic attack versus anxiety attack and generalized anxiety disorder versus panic disorder, I want you to go ahead and take a look at that. I'll put that video in the link in this description box below so you can head over there, because those two diagnoses and attacks can be used interchangeably by people, but they're actually pretty different. So I'm not going to go over the too much of the differences in this video, but rather, because I have a video on that already, but rather I'm going to go over just very generally the different anxiety disorders in the DSM. And all of this can be found in the DSM-5, of course, but also online. I did this with a simple search online. A lot of this information was just, if not all of it, was gathered from online, but I'm just going to go over it very briefly. So you can take the time to read through this word for word. And then the second part of this video, I'm going to have a test prep question that I will break down. So generalized anxiety disorder is probably one of the most commonly utilized diagnoses of anxiety disorders in the DSM-5. Some of the criteria, the well-known criteria, is this excessive worry, like a chest tightening, muscle tension, appetite being affected, sleeping issues, having all of these different things happening and just causing extreme worry in somebody. So one of the major timeline criteria here is that these symptoms have to be present for 6 months. Otherwise, it cannot constitute as an official generalized anxiety diagnosis. So 6 months is a key sort of time frame here that you need to know. Panic disorder is when somebody's experiencing these panic attacks because of the fear of having a panic attack happen again, and as a result, that fear causes these different sorts of symptoms that are listed here. Phobias are when somebody has this extreme fear of anything. It can be an object, a situation, but usually these things are not going to necessarily harm somebody, but there's this really extreme excessive fear surrounding that. Agoraphobia, and I go into more detail about all of these diagnoses again in the LCSW study program that I have coming out. But agoraphobia is basically, in a nutshell, somebody being very afraid to go out into public, being around people on a bus or in a restaurant, for example. And so this makes it very challenging to leave the home. And so this has to be around or present for 6 months or more. Social anxiety disorder, so this was previously called social phobia, is when somebody has this extreme excessive worry and some of those different types of symptoms that we talked about with generalized anxiety disorder. However, they are only present when this person is in a social environment, when they have to do public speaking or meet people, and this has to be around for 6 months and causes issues with daily functioning. Separation anxiety disorder is a diagnosis in childhood, and it's when a child really has extreme discomfort and challenge with separation from parents. And then lastly is unspecified anxiety disorder. So this comes up sometimes because uh, somebody may be, whether it be a medical provider or a new mental health provider, may be working with an individual for the first time and may not know enough about them, and may not, or the person says that they experience these uh, extreme symptoms that are symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder, but they don't meet the 6 month criteria. So it's less than 6 months, but there's still a major impairment or distress in the areas of life. So that would be unspecified anxiety disorder. And again, the timelines with DSM diagnoses are very pertinent and important. So again, with generalized anxiety disorders, that has to be around 6 months, 6 months or more. Otherwise, it will be classified as unspecified anxiety disorder. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to come back here for the next video, because the next video is going to have an actual LCSW test prep question on anxiety disorders. So that will be the next video. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget, managing mental health matters.